Welcome everyone, thank you for tuning in. This is the account with the news update for day 299 of the war in Ukraine. Once again, Russia launched a massive attack on Ukraine over the night, this time using the new batch of Iranian-made Shahed drones they received recently. Naturally, the news today were dominated by these events. We will take an in-depth look at them before we go over the minor developments inside Ukraine, the occupied territories, and the international developments. But as usual, we will begin with the flashpoints along the front. Kremlin. Russia reportedly shelled Ukrainian positions inside Dibrova. We have mentioned this before on here, but it is highly likely the settlement is either contested or under Ukrainian control. Solidar. Russia claims it managed to capture the village of Bilhorivka east of Yakovlivka, while the General Staff of Ukraine reported a repelled attack. Bakhmut. The MO3 highway north of Bakhmut has been cleared, as you can see here in this video shared on social media. A video shared on social media shows the fighting in the eastern parts of Bakhmut. The video is 3.5 minutes long, so if you want to watch it entirely, I put the link in the description. Ukrainian units reportedly managed to advance about 500 meters in the Pytne area south of Bakhmut. Maryinka. The best assessment that can be given is that Maryinka is now divided along the Drushby main road. And now for the news on the Russian drone attack on Ukraine today. According to President Zelensky, the attack consisted of 34 Shahed drones, all from the latest batch Russia received from Iran. He further claimed the batch included 250 UAVs. The attack came while Ukrainians were still struggling with the aftermath of Russia's missile attack on December 16th. Ukraine's Air Force reportedly downed 30 of the Shaheds sent by Russia. The UAVs were once again launched from the eastern side of the Sea of Azov. In Kyiv, explosions were heard in 2 central districts, while the governor of Kyiv Oblast urged residents to stay in shelters and said the air defense is working. In Kyiv alone, 18 out of 23 Shaheds were shot down. However, falling debris and the remaining UAVs caused serious damage to critical infrastructure, leaving 3 districts without electricity, damaging at least 9 houses and injuring 3 civilians. In southern Ukraine, especially Mykolaiv, air defense shot down 10 Shaheds. Vitaly Kim, head of the Oblast State Administration, complained about no air raid sirens sounding after the drones were detected and some were already shot down. In Dnipropetrovsk Oblast, Russia not only used drones for their attack but also MLRS and artillery, causing extensive damage. Melitopol Oblast especially was shelled with more than 60 Grad rockets and heavy artillery targeting residential areas and civilian infrastructure. 11 homes, 6 buildings, cars, a gas pipeline and a power line were damaged in one area alone. Furthermore, the power supply to a water pumping station was destroyed and several villages are without water supply. Ukrenergo reported that, due to the attack, the power situation has worsened significantly. Emergency power outages continue in 10 oblasts and restoration may take a long time. Currently, the most affected areas are the central, eastern, and Dnipro oblasts. And now for the developments inside Ukraine. Speaking to the German newspaper Bild, the representative of the main Directorate of Intelligence of the Ministry of Defense, Vadim Skibitsky, said Ukrainian special forces are conducting operations on the territory of the Russian Federation. He further stated missions were very difficult and require serious training. The Russians protect their military facilities well. However, the targets are purely military. Facilities of the Russian armed forces which are involved in attacks on Ukraine, in particular, logistics centers and command posts or garrisons with a large number of soldiers. During the interview, he also stated Russia is still trying to completely seize the Luhansk, Donetsk and Zaporizhia regions. The State Border Guard Service of Ukraine has yet to detect any changes to the situation inside Belarus. Although the checking of the troops' combat readiness and exercises conducted together with the Russian military are noteworthy, they do not change anything for Ukraine. The state border guards continue to carry out enhancements along the border to completely prepare for defense should anything change. Moving on to the situation in the occupied territories. Russian President Vladimir Putin has signed a decree that will give land to military personnel awarded for their merits in the war, the veterans and relatives of the perished army servicemen. The General Staff of Ukraine reported in its morning update about an increase of Russian military troops near occupied Melitopol. Melitopol has experienced several high-profile attacks lately, and Forbes wrote on December 12th that signs of a possible Ukrainian counteroffensive can be observed in the area. Russia is boosting efforts to track down and detain deserters. According to Serhiy Haidai, head of the Luhansk Regional Military Administration, multiple roadblocks across motorways were set up throughout Luhansk Oblast. Local residents are increasingly unwilling to fight in the war. While not everyone has the financial means to bribe someone and leave for Russia, some reportedly hide in their attics or basements for extended periods to avoid deployment. There are few men left in the temporarily occupied territories. Meanwhile, in Mariupol, Russian authorities are searching for a group of convicts who deserted with their weapons. Allegedly, they disappeared while being transported from Russia through Mariupol. A peculiar explosion on the Kinburn spit has Russian soldiers panicking. Messages of an alleged tactical nuclear weapon used by Ukrainian forces are flooding social networks. According to the head of the Mykolaiv Regional Military Administration, Vitaly Kim, the weapon used was a 9-kilogram thermobaric munition that had been modified. And now for the international developments. In Berlin, the meeting between the President of Russia and Belarus is being watched with anxiety, and they do not rule out the expansion of the Belarusian participation in the war against Ukraine after it. The visiting delegation includes the Minister of Foreign Affairs of the Russian Federation, Sergei Lavrov, and the head of the military department, Sergei Shoigu. This is the first time in 3 years since Russian President Vladimir Putin has visited Belarus, and therefore the meeting is being watched closely. The Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs has threatened Greece over the possibility of old S-300 air defense systems being transferred to Ukraine. It argues plans to hand over S-300 systems and other air defense equipment to Ukraine is a provocation and openly hostile to Russia. Maria Zakharova, spokeswoman of the Russian Ministry of Foreign Affairs, said Greece will become a direct accomplice of Ukrainian neo-Nazis who are waging a criminal war against the peaceful civilian population of the Donbas, Zaporizhia and Kherson oblasts, in particular the numerous ethnic Greeks who live there. Dmitry Peskov, the press secretary of the President of Russia, stated that the planned visit to Belarus by Russian President Vladimir Putin is not designed to drag Belarus into war. He said, "Treat it as utterly stupid, groundless claims. Belarus is a number one ally and partner of Russia. It is with Belarus that we have the highest level of integration, so there is no coercion. Everyone takes the steps which are most corresponding to A, the interests of our nations, B, the interests of our ally state." Alexei Danilov, Secretary of the National Security and Defense Council of Ukraine, believes Chechnya will be part of Russia only for as long as Putin is alive. According to him, the only reason Kadyrov stays aligned with Russia is an agreement between him and Putin that provides everything to Kadyrov: money, preferential treatment, opportunities, and medals. According to Ukrainian intelligence, Russia is preparing terrorist attacks on NATO soil to undermine military aid to Ukraine. The report claims captured Western weapons are supposed to be distributed to extremist groups with the aim to carry out attacks. Depending on how the war in Ukraine develops in 2023, Russia might be preparing for an invasion of Moldova, the Moldovan intelligence claims. The head of the Information and Security Service sees a possibility of Russian troops trying to capture northern Ukraine and, in case of success, reaching all the way to Moldova. The largest ammunition warehouse in Europe is located in the Moldovan breakaway region Transnistria and could help resupply the Russian army for possible further military conflict. And now for the intelligence update by the UK Ministry of Defense. Russian military proxy group Wagner continues to take a major role in attritional combat around the Donetsk Oblast town of Bakhmut. In recent months, it has developed offensive tactics to make use of the large number of poorly trained convicts it has recruited. Individual fighters are likely issued a smartphone or tablet which shows the individual's designated axis of advance and assault objectives superimposed on commercial satellite imagery. At platoon level and above, commanders likely remain in cover and give orders over radios, informed by video feeds from small uncrewed aerial vehicles, UAVs. Individuals and sections are ordered to proceed on the pre-planned route, often with fire support, but less often alongside armored vehicles. Wagner operatives who deviate from the designated assault routes without authorization are likely being threatened with summary execution. These brutal tactics aim to conserve Wagner's rare assets of experienced commanders and armored vehicles at the expense of the more readily available convict recruits, which the organization assesses as expendable. And finally, the evening report by the General Staff of Ukraine. During the day, the enemy launched one rocket attack and also launched about 10 attacks from rocket salvo systems. The enemy also used 28 Iranian Shahed 136 attack UAVs, 23 of which were shot down by the defense forces of Ukraine. As a result of enemy strikes, civilian infrastructure and the civilian population were damaged. Due to the significant losses of the invaders, the repurposing of hospitals in the temporarily occupied territories of Luhansk region into military hospitals continue. Thus, the Luhansk Regional Clinical Hospital, the Luhansk City Multidisciplinary Hospital No. 15, and the Railway Hospital were handed over for use by the Russian occupation forces. The local population is refused service and suggested to turn to other medical institutions. In the previous days, in the districts of Berdyansk, Tokmak, and Polohi of the Zaporizhia region, an ammunition depot, about 15 units of military equipment of various types were destroyed, and more than 150 servicemen of the Russian occupation forces were injured. And with that, we finish today's report. In case one of the articles mentioned caught your interest, I included links to all of them in the description. Thank you for tuning in to today's report and have a great day. You were listening to The Account. Slava Ukraini.